Here are the facts. The Labour Party in Britain currently has the lowest amount of parliament seats since 1935. In Austria, the political left is at their lowest level since 1945. In Germany, the left is now the second lowest they've been since 1940. In Sweden, the left hasn't been so unpopular since 1908. And in France, Italy, and the Netherlands, the political left is currently at their lowest level of popularity ever. In this video, we're going to take a look at precisely why the left is losing, not only in Europe, but also throughout the Anglosphere as well, and see what it all means for the eventual rise of a new conservative age. I think you'll find it very enriching. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Steve here with you. Great to be with you as always. A happy Wednesday to all of you. If this is your first time here, I post 2 videos a day analyzing current events in light of super awesome conservative trends so you can live in the present in light of even better things to come. So if you haven't already done so, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. It'll be an absolute privilege to have you as a regular part of this channel where we together celebrate the inevitable, the unstoppable collapse of left-wing globalism and the brilliant rise of a new conservative age. Now, before we get into why the left is losing, make sure to download your free gift, which we put together just for you. We're calling it our Fake News Antidote, which is a compilation of about 20 sites that I go to for my news, and you can download it completely free at the link down below in the pinned comment section. I think you're going to really enjoy it. We've already had several thousand downloads. It's been awesome. And finally, many health experts now agree that consuming collagen is crucial as it gets to renew and revitalize how you look and feel. It's actually being touted really as the greatest supplement to ever hit the market. It can do wonders for reducing wrinkles and strengthening hair and nails, supporting healthy, pain-free joints, reducing cellulite, even boosting metabolism and dropping those unwanted pounds. But did you know that most collagen supplements do not work at all? I mean, literally, right? Next to no benefit. So I encourage you to watch the free video at my site, healthwithsteveturley.com, or simply click on the link down below to learn more about how you can go about choosing the right collagen for you and the proper way to use it. That's healthwithsteveturley.com. All right, so let's dive right in here. Eric Kaufmann, who's a political professor over at the University of London, he has an excellent piece on the Law and Liberty website entitled Why the Left is Losing. I'll link it down below for you in the pinned comments section for your reference. It's an excellent article. If Kaufmann's name sounds familiar, he's done some wonderful work in political demographics, particularly the demographics of conservative religionists and how they're on course to basically, in his words, take over the world through their through a demographic explosion, as it were. I've used his work in a number of my own books, The Return of Christendom, The Rise of Christian Education, The Triumph of Tradition, and the like. He is an excellent scholar, and he really is on the front lines of the rise of the new nationalist populism that's sweeping the world, but particularly in Europe at this time. Now, he begins his piece with noting that the mainstream left, what we might simply call the center left, is in serious trouble in the West at the moment, right? Now, the immediate occasion for Kaufmann's writing being in England was, of course, the absolute trouncing that Labour got in the December national elections, and they only got, I think, 203, parliament seats, compared to Boris Johnson's Conservatives got 356. It was a massive, massive blowout. Labour lost the popular vote by 12 percentage points, 44% to 32%. It was simply put the worst result for Labour since 1935. But what's so fascinating, and if you're a regular to this channel, you already know this, so make sure to subscribe. But that kind of trouncing has become par for the course for the mainstream left of late. The most recent election was also the worst for the French Socialist Party, once the dominant leftist party in France, as well as the left in Italy and in the Netherlands. The German Social Democrats suffered their worst election since 1949, and the Austrian Social Democrats, they had their worst election since 1945. Finnish socialists are in their worst position since 1962. But the crown of the worst of all parties goes to the Social Democrats in Sweden. They suffered their worst election, you heard it at the beginning, since 1908. Are you sensing a pattern here? So what's going on? For Kaufmann, in a nutshell, An increasing number of Europeans are simply not interested in the economic or class conflicts of the 20th century. Bernie Sanders, take note, okay? They're not interested in the rich versus the poor, generally speaking. They're not interested in, state redistribution versus free markets, regulation versus deregulation and the like. What we're finding in poll after poll, in election after election, is that Europeans are more interested in issues involving immigration, culture, national identity, and national security. So what we're seeing here is a mass paradigm shift, where the political issues that define the 20th century are being replaced with the new issues of the 21st century. And this political paradigm shift is overwhelmingly advantageous to the political right and radically disadvantageous for the political left. Why? Again, simply put, it's easier for right-wing parties to move left on economics than it is for left-wing parties to move right on culture. I'll say that again because I think Kaufman is so right here. It's easier for right-wing parties to move left on economics than it is for left-wing parties to move right on culture. The new paradigm shift is creating voters who are predominantly conservative on cultural issues, but center-left on economics. And we saw this particularly with Trump here in the States. Trump fully adopted the nationalist and traditionalist sentiments of rural America, while at the same time adopting their preference for protectionist economic policies that were once the domain of the political left, right? The New Deal or post-World War II center left. The modern left has so embraced identity politics and multiculturalism that they found themselves handcuffed on the cultural issues which favor this cosmopolitan urban left. And these handcuffs have effectively rendered the vote-rich zone of most electorates out of the political left's reach. And we've seen this with the mass defection of the working class voters. While the left is infatuated with women's rights and gay rights and transgender rights and immigrant rights and minority rights, with their constant obsession on exposing and ending racism and sexism and homophobia and bigotry and intolerance, they've left no room for white working class men who've been most welcomed by the political right, who've effectively pivoted their economics to be more accommodating to populist working class sentiments. Remember, of all the voting groups in France for the 2017 presidential election, the working class was the only group that had voted a majority for Marine Le Pen. The vast majority of working class voters voted in favor of Brexit back in 2016, even though the vast majority of their labor representatives at the time opposed it and then tried to thwart it. And in the states, 200 counties in Wisconsin, Iowa, Michigan, and Pennsylvania that had voted Democrat in every presidential election since the 1980s by a 20-point margin suddenly swung over and voted for Trump by a comparable 20-point margin. That's a 40% swing vote. The swing was so dramatic, it was so significant that even if Hillary Clinton got the same turnout among blacks as Obama got, she still would have lost the election. That's how significant this mass defection of working class voters has been. So while the left has gone through a great awakening, as Kaufman calls it, the right's expanded its base with a whole new voting constituency that the left left and have joined the right. So we're seeing this new cultural realignment that has upended the whole class composition of the main parties. Kaufman notes, too, that a sizable majority of working class voters voted for Labor since 1945, but since backing Tony Blair's New Labor back in 1997, we see a consistent support of white working class falling for Labor. Labor today gets barely 20% of the white working class. So what that means, if you think it through in the British context, is that the Tories' voters are now more working class than Labor's voters, which is unthinkable, since 1995, let alone 1945. Same here in the United States. The GOP is now the party of the white working class. FDR's New Deal Democrat coalition, in effect, has collapsed, and the white working class has defected to the Trump party, the new nationalist populist GOP that Pat Buchanan envisioned back in the 1990s, made up of economic nationalists, populists, and Christian pro-life traditionalists. Now, Kaufman looks a little deeper into the data here, and what he finds explains precisely why this new nationalist populist coalition works. What he finds is that this shift of white working class voters towards the right is heavily predicated on what else but immigration. Those who want clear restrictions on immigration have moved to the right, while those who want open borders have moved to the left. And so this, in many respects, explains why the nationalist populist right has exploded in popularity throughout Europe since 2015, the year of the migration crisis. Kaufman cites European Union data that shows a parallel between the rise of immigration rates from 2015 to the height of 2013 to 2015 and the rise in voter concerns about immigration in the same time period. The numbers are in tandem with one another. So that by late 2015, the number one issue for all voters in Europe, all then 28 member nations, was immigration. That was the number one issue most important to voters in virtually every single nation polled. Kaufman cites a study as well that found a significant relationship between immigration levels, concern over immigration, and populist right support in 9 of 10 Western European countries between 2005 and 2016. And he doesn't mention it by name, but Kaufman notes that this political paradigm shift, where we've gone from concerns about class and taxes and economic policy to concerns about immigration, culture, and national identity, this paradigm shift is causing the mainstream right parties to transform into what we like to call on this channel the nationalist populist light parties, right? These are mainstream conservative parties that have begun to openly embrace the concerns of the nationalist populist right, the so-called far right, right? And we're seeing that, of course, in Britain with Tories, in Austria, and Hungary, and Poland, in Italy, in the Netherlands, in Germany. The CDU, Angela Merkel's party, is far more nationalist and conservative in Eastern Germany, as is the Christian Social Union in Bavaria. And so when all is said and done, it appears that left-wing parties are facing a rather horrible dilemma. Move right on immigration and risk alienating your activists, your cultural Marxist identity politics faithful, or remain true to them, true to the cosmopolitan identity politics, and keep losing elections. That's the new electoral reality for an increasing number of left-wing parties, a new electoral reality that promises to usher in a new political order comprised of nationalist, populist, and traditionalist dominance for generations to come. Now, before you go, you definitely want to check out the video I just put up on Trump's soaring approval numbers, all the while Democrats are leaving the Democratic Party in droves. It's going to make your day. It'll give you a stride throughout the rest of the day, right? So make sure to click on the link, and I'll see you over there. God bless.